Okay, there we go. And I am going to get my screen sharing now. Okay, you guys can all still see me in front of this, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, so we all move through our days on autopilot more than we realize, especially in our relationships, our reactions, even in the way that we breathe. So tonight we are going to gently slow things down and explore what becomes possible when we pause and just notice. So let's begin by settling into this moment. There's nothing to fix, no right way to do this, just you and your awareness. So take a breath and let's dive in. So, noticing is at the heart of any change that we as humans want to make. Most people come to us as therapists wanting something to change their relationship with food. They might want to change their relationship with their spouse. They're dissatisfied with their job and want something to change. Or, like in these pictures, they may want to change the role in which certain emotions play in their life or the way that they interact with certain emotions, like anger or rage. So, change is all about cultivating awareness and noticing because we can't change the thing until first we are aware of the thing. So, think of noticing as like switching on the lights in a dark room. The furniture was always there. We just couldn't see it when the lights were off in the dark, and we just kept stubbing our toe on it. So, first, we got to talk about autopilot, which is how we kind of think of it as comfortably numb. Autopilot moments are those moments that come without our awareness or without our noticing. So, the definition of autopilot is when our brain and bodies operate out of habit or automatic patterns without our conscious awareness or choice in the moment. Autopilot is when you're moving through life reacting and responding out of habit without really noticing or choosing how or why you're showing up. It can be a really useful short-term strategy so that we don't have to think about every small action, but it can also keep old, unhelpful patterns running beneath the surface. So now that we've given this brief definition of what autopilot is, Michelle, Tiff, and I are going to share some examples of autopilot in our lives. And like you'll see there in the picture, it says dissociating is so wild because who the F just drove this car for the past 20 minutes? That's actually one of my autopilot moments that happens all the time is like driving to work or driving my kids somewhere that we go all the time and getting there and having absolutely no realization like how you got there. You're just there. And if people ask you questions, you have no clue. Or another autopilot moment that I was tuning into last night was going to bed, fully prepared to just go to sleep, grabbing my phone, started scrolling. And all of a sudden it was like 45 minutes later, and I had no clue what I'd even looked at and just killed time. Total autopilot, just moving through. So, Tiff or Michelle, would one of you guys be willing to share an autopilot moment that you've noticed in your life? Michelle, how about you go first?
Yep. I was going to say,
Hmm.
I'll just volunteer. Absolutely. The driving thing for sure, not unusual at all to be like, wow, no memory of getting from here to there. But one of the things that I would say I'm getting better at tuning into is autopilot around eating.
Hmm.
So there's a cupboard in my kitchen where snacky things reside, and I can literally be there grabbing something before like without any awareness. So I can just find myself there and be like, okay, interesting. Like what's happening? What, you know, starting to notice some of the patterns there. Also happens just eating like a meal, particularly if I'm like reading something while I'm eating or talking to someone while I'm eating, to eat way past full, to, get to the other side and realize I wasn't listening at all to what my body had to say. I was just, emptying my plate or whatever it was. So those are a couple of the ones that are really common for me.
Mhm. Definitely.
Well, you hosting this event got me thinking when I knew you were going to be talking about autopilot moments. And I I was really aware of it today. of all the times that I get up, especially in between sessions or when I have a break, and I just start tidying things around my house. I just start like going out and doing the dishes or wiping off the counter and so I'm just realizing that my autopilot is a lot of cleaning and tidying, and it's some of these habits that rob me of quality time with my husband. In fact, I'm like, I'm busy like wiping off windowsills. What? So those are mine.
Thank you both for sharing.
You want us to go off now?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want to hang out. Great. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful for us just to give some examples of autopilot, like real autopilot moments in our lives, right? Because we don't have it all figured out yet. And now that we've talked about these autopilot moments and given some examples, if you haven't yet, feel free to think about if any of those moments might resonate with you, or if there's other you've connected with as we're talking. Like I know I thought of a few others while Michelle and Tiff were sharing. Feel free to write it down if you'd like to. Otherwise, just know that we might pop down and pop back into these autopilot moments later on in the presentation. And now we're actually just going to do a quick fast body practice. Again, everyone's going to be off camera again, so you're not going to be called on, but just to really demonstrate how fast our brains shift into autopilot without us noticing. So everyone's off camera except me. No one has to worry about what they're looking like except me. So what we're going to do first is I want everyone just to fold their arms right in front of them. So as you've done that, notice, did you choose how you folded your arms? Or did your body just do what it always does? So now unfold your arms. And this time, I want you to fold your arms, but in the opposite way, the way that feels a little bit weird. I don't know if that felt weird to any of you guys, but I know that I've practiced this and I still am awkwardly moving my arms around. So basically, that first arm fold, that's autopilot. You didn't think about it, you didn't choose it. It was just patterned. Your arms just went that way habitually. That second fold, that's awareness. You had to slow it down and you had to notice and make a conscious choice to do something different. So using that example, our reactions, our protective behaviors, even our self-talk, they all work in the same way. Without our awareness or without our noticing, we live on autopilot, just reacting to life. And so this is why the spark of wisdom is really important, because when we can start to bring in awareness and noticing, we can shift from reacting to responding. Okay. This slide has me talking a little bit more. So interrupting autopilot with awareness. So think of awareness as that moment when you turn the lights on. Awareness creates this space to choose a different way. So before we can really talk about awareness, we got to define it. So what is awareness? Awareness is defined as the state or quality of being conscious of something. It involves the ability to recognize, perceive, or be cognizant of events, objects, thoughts, emotions, or sensations, either in our internal world, like our feelings or our bodily states, or in the external environment around us. So notice in all of this, there was nothing about making up a story or taking it any further. Awareness is just noticing without judgment or attaching a story to it. So why is awareness important? Awareness is important because one, it precedes choice. Before we can consciously choose how to act, we first must be aware of what's happening, both internally and externally. So, for example, if you're unaware that you're feeling anxious, your decisions might be unconsciously driven by that anxiety. But once you notice it, you can start to respond intentionally rather than just react impulsively. Awareness is what allows us to have space between stimulus and response, allowing that choice rather than an automatic behavior. So without awareness, you're on autopilot, and with it, we can start to reclaim agency. So Awareness also impacts our relationships with ourselves, with others, and with our own regulation. So it's actually the foundational skill that affects how we relate to ourselves and others. So think about awareness in relationships. Being aware of our emotional triggers, our communication patterns, our assumptions, it helps us to respond with empathy and more grounded energy instead of defensiveness and reactivity. If we can be aware of what's showing up when we're in relationships with others, it allows us to shift from these old patterns and into more new connective ones. But again, we can't begin to change any of that without first having awareness or noticing. This is why we're really slowing it down into that first step here tonight. So we also look at how awareness impacts our self-perception. When we are able to be aware of and observe our own self-talk, beliefs, or behaviors non-judgmentally, we can start to see ourselves more clearly beyond our old conditioning. So instead of going down those well-worn paths or telling ourselves old stories that we've been telling ourselves on autopilot for so many years, if we can start to bring awareness into the equation, we can start to see ourselves from a different light and change the way in which we interact with ourselves. And again, just bringing it right back, we have to be aware of the thing until we can change the thing, before we can change the thing. So finally, just looking even at all of this connected to regulation, emotional awareness allows us to identify what we're feeling and use tools like breathing or reframing to stay grounded rather than just getting swept up into emotions. So in short, to summarize all of that, awareness improves how we understand, connect, and manage ourselves and others. So again, just like I had set up there, noticing without judgment, awareness is compassion, not correction. So awareness isn't about spotting flaws so that we can fix them. It's about meeting ourselves with compassion and understanding. When we can observe ourselves with kindness instead of criticism, we can create space for real change. So the goal is not to get it right, but to be present and kind. So awareness is the first step in change, growth, or healing. It's why it's important to notice that. You can't shift what you're unaware of. It's this foundation for mindfulness, empathy, and intentional living. Okay, that was my big slide of lots of talking. So we're going to get into some more experientials here. And no, again, everyone's off camera. Michelle and Tiff later might pop on when I call them to share, but everyone gets to be off camera this whole time. So we have spent time talking about autopilot and what awareness is and why it's important. Now we're going to spend time talking about how to cultivate it and grow awareness. So awareness lives in the ordinary. Most of us are not naturally present. We do just go through our days without awareness. How we can start to cultivate awareness by practicing presence. We are going to do some exercises here that can help us all start to cultivate presence and awareness, because while this spark of wisdom, notice that can be easy, it's actually really hard, right? So that's why we're going to spend some time tonight doing that. So we are going to do a quick noticing practice right here. All of us, I'm assuming, some of you might be standing, but many of us are sitting right now. But were we really aware of sitting? Now, I want you to bring your full attention to the sensation of sitting. Just really notice. Where does your body make contact with the chair? Where do you feel pressure? Is there any warmth present? Coolness? Any other sensations? Just notice, even in that moment, how fast our awareness can drop into our bodies, just with a couple prompts, right? We're not taking it much further here. And how before this moment, our brains had us on autopilot without noticing any of these things that were happening while we were sitting. This right there, this little exercise, that's the shift. Noticing what's already here, but is outside of our awareness. So awareness begins with noticing what's present, even if it feels ordinary or automatic. Now, we're going to take it one step further. Since we've already taken a moment to bring awareness to us sitting in the chairs, we're going to go just a little bit deeper. So everyone just kind of settle back, get comfy. I'm going to take a drink of water. Noticed I was thirsty. So we spend most of our lives living from the neck up, thinking, fixing, analyzing, but awareness is this full body experience. So right now, we're going to do something a little bit radical, actually noticing that we have a body. So no fixing or relaxing or changing required. We're just going to notice. So as everyone's settled in, I want you just to come into awareness of our bodies. You're welcome to close your eyes or soften your gaze or keep them open if that feels more comfortable. First, I want you to just notice your breath moving in and out. No need to change it. Just notice your breath. Now, if you could bring your attention to your feet. Where do they touch the floor? Are they even on the floor? Just notice what shows up as your awareness focuses on your feet. Now I'll invite you to bring your awareness to your seat and your hips, where your body meets the chair. Notice any sensations of weight, pressure, temperature. Now notice your shoulders and your neck. Let's even carry it up into your jaw. Is there tension there or ease? Are your shoulders hunched or relaxed? Teeth clenched or jaw loose? No need to change it. Just notice. And finally, let's zoom out. Let's sense our whole body sitting here, breathing, sitting on the chair, just being alive and present. And when you're ready, you can come back, thanking your body for slowing down for a minute just to tune in. Because like we did in this exercise, awareness begins here, in these bodies, in this moment. So just like we did there, we can start to train ourselves to be more present in the micro moments or these moments to pause. And one thing that we can do is start to cultivate awareness in our everyday. We can do this by scheduling moments to check in with our bodies. It might look like setting alarms on your phones or picking activities that we do on a daily basis and create an intention to bring more awareness and presence into those activities. So these are called micro moments or moments to pause. And these might be moments when we tend to be on autopilot, like we mentioned before, or might be moments where we feel there's an opportunity to slow down and check in. So I'm going to have Tiff and Michelle come back on here, but I'm going to talk about a couple examples of what these moments to pause might look like, and one that I use. And then they're going to each share some of their examples as well. So two ones that I try to do on a regular basis is when I'm washing my hands, which happens quite a bit, right? Instead of just quickly washing my hands and thinking ahead to the next thing and just going through my day, I've tried to start using that as an opportunity just to kind of slow down and notice the water on my hands and check in with my body and just kind of see how I'm doing. It's already an activity that I'm doing all the time during the day, but allows me to bring some more awareness into it. And another example that I do is I fill up my water bottle a lot. And so every time that I fill that up, I tend to use that as just another opportunity. So clearly the sink is kind of my little trigger to check in with my body and just bring a little bit more awareness into those moments. And so those are two examples of my micro moments or moments to pause. And I called him Michelle first last time, so I'll call him Tiff this time.
Okay. I would say whatever I'm drinking, and I, like Kate, I'm also a therapist, and so I'm usually have either tea or something, and just holding that cup is a reminder for me to just kind of slow down and check in. Like if I'm with a client, it's just really slowing down and listening and being present. Um, I, you know, when I do get in my car, and this is one that I tell people who drive more than me, but it's just when you get in the car and I hold on to that steering wheel, that's that moment that I decide, I check in with myself and I decide, do I want to listen to the news? What kind of music do I want? So I'm kind of just checking in with myself. Do I want no sound at all? Um, and I would say I have a big moment to pause first thing in the morning, because I'm done raising kids and have a quiet house. So in the morning time, I like to leave a little bit of time to just kind of be with myself without my phone and my laptop or something like that. So those are a couple that come to mind for me.
Thanks, Tiff.
Okay. Multiples of mine. My water bottle is for sure the number one moment to pause that I use, and would, invite other people to connect to something that they do multiple times a day. The other one I do pretty often, but not all the time, is when I go to the bathroom. Like every time I pee, I'm taking a second, like just kind of thinking about what's going on inside around me, noticing my body temperature or where I might be feeling tension. So those are the couple, most common ones that I use.
Mhm. And one that just flew through my mind as they were sharing is I've been trying to get better at any time that I grab my phone to hop on social media to check in with what am I noticing first, instead of is that an autopilot, like numb out doing something, right? Because then I can start to shift it of just into something a little bit more mindful versus autopilot and comfortably numb. So, and actually, I think with this one, I'm going to have you guys stay on, Michelle and Tiff, because we're going to show some images and sounds and stuff. And so instead of having you guys pop back on as we do this, but to finish this slide, as you guys are seeing, awareness lies in the ordinary things that we do every day. And we are just so conditioned to not tune into it, right? That's why we're spending today. And we have the spark of notice, the spark of wisdom called notice that, right? Because it is so important. So we've been practicing a lot tonight because I like experiential stuff, but we're going to keep going. So I'm going to show you guys some images and then have you guys listen to some sounds so we can just continue to keep practicing, noticing that and bringing our awareness into our bodies. So in these coming slides, I'm just going to show some images and I'll just probably have Tiff share one and then Michelle share the next one of just what shows up in our bodies, right? So when you see the image, just take a minute, notice what shows up, do a body scan like we practice. You can write it down or you can just bring awareness to it. And again, you guys are not going to be asked to share or hop on screen. We're having Michelle and Tiff share because this is new stuff to get connected with our bodies. And I've always found it helpful to have someone also sharing what they notice in their bodies, right? So here's the first one. Let's take a minute. Michelle, what showed up in your body when you first saw this picture?
Yeah, immediately I noticed kind of a warmth in my heart area. I felt my lips turn up, so I felt the smile. And then I noticed some thoughts, like remembering being with my own kids when they were that age decades ago. So yeah, a whole combination of things.
Mhm. Tiff, is there anything different that you noticed, or was it kind of the similar?
It could be because my office is a little stuffy, but I noticed some warmth. I definitely was aware. I noticed an exhale right away, and then it's interesting. I noticed my immediate thought was, um, the story was she's saying goodbye to her baby, and I don't know what that was, but I always had a hard time saying goodbye when I would have to drop off my little one at
Mm,
preschool or whatever. And so that was the immediate story, but yeah, just a
mhm.
settling of sorts too.
Yeah. Well, and just to share how different experiences can pop up, right? Because these images, everyone could be having different experiences, whether they've had children, couldn't have children, long to have children, right? Like this image can mean so many different things for different people. And I had very like, kind of similar to Michelle, of just like, oh, kind of like could feel a baby right here almost. And also had a thing of like, I'm so glad my kids are not that age right now. And we're past that. So I also had that fly through my body with that. So we're going to go to the next image here. Let's take a minute. Okay, notice what showed up in your body. Tiff, what did you notice as you?
Tightening,
Uh-huh.
like that water looks really, really cold, and yeah, just kind of like a stiffening. And yeah, and I zeroed in on I found myself looking more at the person with either a shower cap or gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just like uncomfortable. Just kind of makes me feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, constriction for sure. And then almost like a um, pit in my stomach. That's the right description, like pit in my stomach. Um, that was the immediate thing. And then my brain made more sense of like, oh, this is a choice. They are cold plunging and racing or something. And then I did notice a story about like, yeah, people like to do all sorts of different things. Like, yeah. And
Yeah.
I did notice too, I'm like, and they look to be very different ages. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a fair race. I don't know. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I maybe should have shared before that you guys, this is the first time Michelle and Tiff have seen these pictures or heard these sounds. I texted them this morning, letting them know that they were being part of this presentation and helping me out. So they were prepared for some of the autopilot moments on what to share, but this is the first. So these are real noticing moments here. Here's the next one. Let's take a minute. Notice what shows up in your body.
I, I don't need a minute.
You don't need a minute. Okay, what,
I don't
what
need
showed
a
up for
minute.
you?
I like that is sad. That makes me feel sad, and sadness shows up in my body as like I can feel myself tearing up. I tear up quite easily. Yeah, and I feel it more in my gut, like an aching. Like I just want to go get them and give them a home.
Yeah, I would say I noticed this feeling first. Well, no, I probably noticed the urge first, the urge to like, how do I change whatever, I made up a story right away, like that they're in a cage or wanting to get out. Um, and we literally just picked up our new rescue dog. So I also had this like, oh, maybe they're looking at the people who are walking towards them, to go get them. Yeah. And that they're together, not alone. So
Yeah,
hmm.
thank you. Let's do one more.
Oh. Yeah,
Michelle, yeah, so just notice what shows up, but we're gonna have Michelle
like,
share first here.
almost instant gag. Like, oh my God. Like, feel the glands, in the back of my whatever jaw. And then funny, I laughed out loud. Like that's funny. Like, what a great way to, get a reaction out of people.
Tiff,
Same. Thanks for putting it into words. I would just add, I mean, my mouth started watering, kind of gaggy, and then tight. Like I found myself kind of clenching my teeth. And I didn't giggle. I giggled because you giggled, but I was just like straight up gross. And yeah. It's like they just ripped open the top and were like, find the toenail, like the plastic's still on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gross. Gaggy.
Gaggy. Okay. Well, thank you guys for all taking a few minutes there to dive into your bodies with some pictures. We're going to do a quick little reroute here and do some sounds, but I have to switch to a different screen to play these, I think. So I am just going to stop the share and share a different one here quickly. Okay.
You're on it.
Look at that. Got through all the commercials. So everyone in this one, I'm actually going to invite everyone just to shut their eyes if they feel so called and safe in their bodies to do so. And this time we're going to go through some different sounds and notice what shows up in your body.
I can't hear anything, Kate.
I can't either.
Oh, well.
Did you share your sound when you shared your screen?
I couldn't tell you. Let me see. Audio.
Remember when you first start to share, maybe stop the share and then go back in.
I'll try that one more time. Thank you. Tech support. Let's try that one more time.
Yeah, it's usually you.
I know. It does not.
And the right hand
option,
side.
share sound. There we go.
Yep, you got it.
Oh, to share your computer audio, please install the Zoom audio device. Well, just kidding, guys. We're not going to do that one. We are just going to walk through it then, and I'm going to explain differently. So let me just go back in. You learn something new every time.
Yeah.
Presentation.
I can make
not a big deal. So essentially,
did you just say Michelle just said she can make some sounds?
I can make some sounds.
Great. Let's
people react.
Go for it, Michelle. Just we'll have you
no, I'll ruin it by doing like
we have fun together. So what I will just
there's a reaction.
There would be a reaction.
They
there would
probably notice something.
They would probably notice something if you just screamed. Yeah. Would be real good. Okay, well, what we were going to do there is I had a few different sounds that, again, were just another exercise to bring us into our body. One was kind of a calm, soothing, kind of serenity type meditation spa thing, right? And then we shifted to one of kind of like a spooky sound, right? So kind of think about being in like a haunted house type situation where, it just can kind of feel it going through your body. And then it shifted to dogs barking, really loud, really in your face, right? And really just kind of hitting home with this example, which would have been much better if I had learned I couldn't do this before. But is just to tune into the way that different sounds, and I'm sure you guys can all think of this with music, right? There's just some music that just makes you want to dance, and there's some that makes you want to get into your feelings and cry. And there's some that you just, like the ones my kids have been playing lately, where you just are so overstimulated and you want them to turn it off immediately because they're just like screaming and whatever is happening. And so it really was just another way to really use two of our senses to get connected into our bodies, right? So using your sight and then your sound. And you can also cultivate getting connected and noticing that in your body using your other senses. But I figured it would be kind of hard to get you guys to do some tasting or smelling or feeling on Zoom. I thought I had sound down, but apparently not. So just doing that. And Michelle and Tiff, you guys can stay on for this because I'm going to have you share anyway. So just to keep it simple. Um, we are actually now kind of in this final experiential. Gonna just tie it all together and do one final noticing guided experience. Again, no one's going to be called on to share except these two lovely ladies here. So just settle in for a moment. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze if that feels comfortable to you. And I want you to think of a slightly triggering situation. Mild, not traumatic. If anyone's having a hard time thinking of one, I'm just going to give an example, which could be sending a really vulnerable text message to a friend and seeing that they've opened it but not responded, or knowing you're going into a meeting where you're going to need to give someone some really hard feedback on their performance and you know it won't go well. So just for a moment here, really connect to a slightly triggering situation in your life. Just notice what's happening in your body right now. Take a moment to do a full body scan. Just see what's showing up. Notice what thoughts might be showing up. Can you just notice without trying to change or fix? Just really be with your body for a couple more seconds, noticing what's showing up. And whenever you're ready, you can start to come back here. You're welcome to write down anything that might be useful from this experience. Just noticing what showed up in your body. Any thoughts that may have come with it. And if you were able to just notice without trying to change or fix. And while you're doing that, I'm going to see if Michelle or Tiff might be willing to share. And you don't have to share what the situation was if you don't want to, or you can, but just curious if either of you would be willing to share how that was for you.
Happy to. Yeah, the knowing I have a hard conversation to have with somebody, and immediately felt it in my throat. So throat chakra kind of constricted. My mouth felt drier. And I noticed the constriction in my chest, I would call like anxiety, like that. I felt a little bit of anxiousness. And interestingly enough, being in like with my eyes closed and really trying to tune in, surprisingly, the thoughts I heard were, kind of like, you got this, you can do hard things. Like, ultimately, this is a conversation that is going to be beneficial, even though it's going to be difficult. So yeah, the thoughts were really encouraging, which was cool.
Thanks for sharing. Tiff, how about you?
Yeah, so mine it's a mildly distressing situation when one of my somebody in my family is having a hard time, and they're turning to me. Just when you asked us to bring it up in our mind, to bring it into our awareness, I immediately noticed my breathing changed, and I was like kind of breathing shallowly. That's a word. My hands felt warm, and the thoughts in my head were be encouraging, you either like for me to kind of do something. So probably a little bit of anxiousness, breathing changes, temperature changes, and then the thoughts were uh, like, I got to do something. So that was mine.
Thank you. And I actually have a really interesting thing that I'm going to share because it just popped up as you guys were sharing. Speaking of noticing and bringing awareness to the moment, when Michelle was like, "Oh, I'm thinking of having a hard conversation with someone," I noticed my chest clenched. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what if the hard conversation's with me and we have to dive into something?" And I was like, and immediately started sweating. And I was like, no, she's been on vacation for a week. We're good. But I had to like talk myself out of it. So just to be super vulnerable there, I was like, oh no, here we go. Okay. So
Notice that.
I know. I was like, we're going to notice that. It's not about me. But yeah. So just to kind of bring this here, when we're able to slow down and pay attention, you're laughing, we take the first step towards change. That's where we meet our power. Because awareness is our superpower, and we've just become conditioned to ignore it and move through our lives on autopilot. So we just really took a deep dive into the spark of wisdom, notice that. And noticing is at the heart of all personal growth. We've touched on what is awareness and how to cultivate it. We've spent time exploring moments of autopilot and how we might engage in that in our life. And we've practiced cultivating awareness in real time. Now it's time to take this and practice it in your daily life, knowing that noticing is the first step to change. So, your invitation for the week is just try to notice one moment of autopilot and pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling? And as a reminder, you don't have to fix it. You just have to notice that. And another thing that you can do there is just practice those moments to pause. We threw out a bunch of different examples, and you guys may come up with better ones. Send them to us. And those are just ways to bring more awareness into your daily activities. And then we're going to plug our next event, which Michelle is going to host on waking up to the truth. Sleep is your secret weapon. We are slowing it down for the summer because we've noticed that all of us can use a little bit of a slower summer, and we like to practice what we preach. So our next event is going to be Sunday, September 28th. It will be at 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time on Zoom, and the lovely Michelle in her cape will be facilitating. And that's it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.